Weight loss surgery versus Ozempic versus dieting. Who did it best? Hey everyone, I am Abby Sharp. Welcome back to Abby's Kitchen. Today we're going to be getting into the nitty-gritty of what everyone wants to know. What is the best way to lose weight and keep it off? Should you look into surgery? Should you try Ozempic? Or should you count calories the old-fashioned way? As a dietitian, my job is not to tell you what is right. It is ultimately to educate you on the risks, benefits, and most importantly, the questions to ask your doctor so that you can make an informed decision about your health. Okay, before we dive in, let's take a moment to talk about today's sponsor, Element. So there is an ongoing huge discussion right now about electrolytes, and as a dietitian, I would say this is absolutely for good reason. Electrolytes play such an important role in the body. They support everything from nerve signaling to hormone regulation to fluid balance and nutrient absorption. And I first heard about Element from some of my sports dietitian friends who are using it religiously with their athlete clients because it has a science-backed electrolyte ratio. So 1,000 milligrams of sodium, 200 milligrams of potassium, and 60 milligrams of magnesium without any added sugar or artificial colors or fillers. And Element has really been a staple in my routine for several years now. It really helped get me through breastfeeding and, tennis in the summer. It's been a very hot summer here in Toronto. All the long kind of travel days and definitely a few hangovers. And actually, one of the medications I'm on does cause some dehydration. So even my doctor recommended increasing my electrolytes to help combat them. And I go through so many different phases with my favorite flavor, which is why it's so great that they have so many. I've probably been on a mango chili kick for like 2 years, but right now I'm obsessed with the watermelon. But the good news is there's so many great options, so there's always something to kind of mix it up. And right now, Element is giving my viewers a free sample pack of their most popular flavors with any purchase. So that's 8 single serving packets for free with any order. Plus, Element offers a no questions asked refund policy if you don't love it, which you will. So to grab yours, head to drinkelement.com/AbbySharp, and this deal is only available through my link. So go to drinklmnt.com/AbbySharp. All right, friends, before we get into it, a quick disclaimer that this video is absolutely not meant to be tailored medical advice. So always speak to your doctor about your unique needs. And of course, a reminder that we will be going into a lot of detail about weight loss and body changes. So if that is not a topic that feels relevant or safe for you, please click out and I will see you next time. Ultimately, I am not here to tell you how to lose weight or even if you should lose weight at all. I believe in body autonomy and providing the facts that allow people to use that to inform their choices. All right, folks, let's get into it. All right, first in the ring, weight loss surgery, aka bariatric surgery. So I have a whole video breaking down various bariatric surgeries, so you can definitely check that out if you want more detail. But as a quick little recap, there are basically 2 main categories to explore. There are restrictive surgeries like the lap band and the sleeve gastrostomy, which limits the size of the stomach so that you can physically only fit so much in. And then there are restrictive malabsorptive surgeries like the Roux-en-Y gastric bypass and the biliopancreatic diversion with duodenal switch. Yes, very big names, which in addition to restricting the stomach, basically reduce nutrient absorption in the intestines. So in other words, you kind of harvest fewer calories from the food that you consume. So let's talk about the benefits or pros. So bariatric surgery is usually indicated for folks with more significant obesity, so basically a BMI of 35 or more, where on average, patients can lose between 15 to 40% of their total weight or up to 90% of their excess weight in the 2-year period post-surgery. And while there of course are significant risks of all surgeries, by doctor standards, it is considered a low-risk surgery because the mortality risk is between 0.03 to 0.2%. Now, obviously that is still up to 2 for every 1,000 patients. So it's not 0, but apparently in the medical world, that is pretty good. The other benefit to bariatric surgery is that we often do see improvements in many other kind of weight-related comorbidities like type 2 diabetes, sleep apnea, hypertension, dyslipidemia, and liver injury. At this point, it's kind of unclear if these benefits are unique to the surgery itself or a result of the significant weight loss, but there is some research to suggest that surgery results in better improvements in blood sugars compared to non-surgical strategies. So that's the good. Let's talk about the risks. In addition to general surgical risks like infections or complications, malabsorption surgeries are also a significant risk of something called dumping syndrome, which is basically when food moves too quickly to the small intestine, resulting in severe blood sugar lows, rapid heart rate, diarrhea, weakness, and fatigue. So bariatric patients actually do have to pay close attention to their diet. So they have to eat small, regular meals, avoid caffeine, avoid kind of high sugar, high fat meals, and then drink water between, but not with meals. Malabsorptive bariatric surgery patients also risk severe nutrient deficiencies and muscle wasting because the nutrients from the foods that they are eating aren't actually getting fully absorbed and utilized. But perhaps one of the biggest considerations with bariatric surgery is the impact on mental health. So bariatric surgery may make it harder to overeat, but it doesn't necessarily address the food noise, emotional eating, disordered eating, or other root causes of obesity. So because the food noise is not addressed, it often can result in grazing on highly palatable, high-calorie foods throughout the day to override the effects of the surgery, or it can actually result in folks making themselves regularly very sick from overeating. Research also suggests that there is a significant chance of what we call addiction transfer, where patients may swap compulsive eating for other addictive substances or behaviors like alcohol misuse. Some research also suggests an increased risk of self-unaliving post-op. And because bariatric surgery doesn't impact the brain, just basically the gut, there is a very high chance of relapse. So what is the cost of all this? Well, obviously it will vary depending on the location, surgery, and insurance coverage, but the American Society for Metabolic and Bariatric Surgery estimates between $17,000 to $26,000. And that's not including the cost of supplements or any additional care from healthcare professionals, which obviously is recommended. And for a very long time, weight loss surgery was the gold standard for combating kind of more advanced stages of obesity. But now, of course, we have GLP-1 agonists like Ozempic and Wegovy. So how does weight loss surgery compare to these drugs? GLP-1 receptor agonists work by mimicking the effects of GLP-1, which is basically a satiety hormone, by stimulating insulin release, reducing appetite, and slowing the rate that food leaves our stomach. And the end result is weight loss and also an improvement in blood sugar, hence why Ozempic is, at this time at least, only approved for diabetes. So let's talk about the benefits. Compared to bariatric surgery, GLP-1 drugs are less invasive, offer a lower risk profile, and involve a weekly injection. So there is the opportunity to just kind of discontinue treatment if you want, unlike surgery, which is, of course, not so easily reversible. They're also pretty effective. So studies suggest that GLP-1 receptor agonists like Ozempic may result in a weight loss of about 15%, and tirzepatide may result in about 20 to 22% body weight loss. Now, that can be less than some bariatric surgeries, which could be as high as like 40%, but still, it is a huge improvement from traditional weight loss drugs that we were originally using, like orlistat or appetite-suppressing stimulants, which offered only around 6 to 8% body weight loss. GLP-1s also have been shown to improve insulin sensitivity, A1C, and blood sugars, blood pressure, cholesterol, inflammatory markers, and risk of cardiovascular events. And these effects often occur before significant weight loss even happens. What sets GLP-1s apart from bariatric surgery and also lifestyle modification most significantly is that they eliminate the #1 contributor to weight gain, which, as I've discussed many times here on my channel, is appetite management. GLP-1s affect hormones and the gut, yes, but they also act directly on the reward centers in the brain to essentially reduce food noise or food preoccupation and cravings for hyper-palatable foods. Actually, unlike bariatric surgery, which increases the risk of alcohol use disorder, early research suggests that GLP-1s may actually help to reduce the risk. So it's going to be very interesting to see where the research goes on this and if or when it is being prescribed specifically for alcohol use disorder. But this piece is really critical for quality of life because it is often this food noise, especially when you're in a calorie deficit during a weight loss diet, that makes keeping weight off a massive, massive slog. So when we remove this huge mental burden from people's lives, it may actually free up mental energy to pursue key health promoting behaviors. But of course, there are risks and unpleasant side effects. So most of the Ozempic's side effects are GI related. So the most common ones being nausea, diarrhea, constipation, cramping, vomiting, although these do usually subside once your dose is stabilized. It also, of course, should be noted that there are some case reports of patients developing thyroid cancer after starting semaglutide, but this was shown to be like a very low incidence and occurring in less than 1% of people. So not necessarily something to be very, very worried about unless you have family history. Also, not unlike weight loss surgery or really any situation that results in rapid weight loss, there is a heightened risk of nutrient deficiencies and muscle loss. We ultimately don't want to just lose any old weight. We want to lose fat while maintaining precious muscle to preserve our long-term metabolic health. And to just be clear, studies suggest that GLP-1s don't inherently cause muscle loss in the body, at least not any more so than other weight loss methods. It's just that rapid weight loss by any means does increase the risk. And it's very hard to get that muscle back. So that means that GLP-1 patients still need to pay careful attention to lifestyle factors like strength training and maximizing protein in every meal and snack. Now, from a physiological perspective, it's also not necessarily all unicorns and rainbows. While there is a dearth of official research on this, there may be some people on Ozempic who report feeling kind of emotionally flat or disconnected from food, or just unable to enjoy experiences the way that they once did. This doesn't seem to be a super common complaint. In fact, a lot of folks find it's very freeing to find joy in other aspects of socializing. But of course, depending on the severity of side effects and how they're impacting quality of life, this could be a massive loss. Finally, you just have to appreciate that this is a lifelong medication. If you come off this drug, your appetite will return, your blood sugars will go back to baseline, and you will gain weight back. One study showed that patients regained 2/3 of the weight back after a year of withdrawing from treatment. So this is not a quick fix. It's gonna have to be part of your ongoing life. But of course, let's talk cost because Ozempic is not cheap, with prices up to $1,000 per month in the States and generally around $200 to $400 in Canada. If we just put aside inflation and assuming the cost of the drug doesn't change, if you were to start this drug at, let's say, age 35 and you stay on it until you're 75, you would have spent nearly $500,000 to stay thin. Obviously, for a lot of people, that is 1000% worth it. But for others, it is just never going to be a feasible investment without some kind of coverage or insurance break. So I do think it's worth kind of thinking through the long game before you jump in. Last but certainly not least, let's talk about lifestyle change, aka diet and exercise to purposefully and willfully create a calorie deficit. Diet and exercise is generally the first line recommendation from healthcare professionals, and there are a million different diets that people can attempt, from keto to intermittent fasting, aka skipping a meal, counting calories or points, whatever, but they all basically work the same way. They work by creating a calorie deficit. So let's talk about the benefits here. I mean, the reason why going on a diet is option number one for most people is because it carries far fewer physical risks than surgery or medication. It doesn't increase the risk of infection or dumping syndrome or malabsorptive disorders or extreme GI side effects, at least usually, and you're far less likely to become actually malnourished or lose a lot of muscle because the weight loss is usually much more gradual. Not to mention, in some, but certainly not all cases, I'm looking at you, carnivore diet, the behavioral changes that you take on to lose weight can have health benefits well beyond weight loss for improving heart health, blood sugar, strength, etc. There's also generally more flexibility in choosing a diet that fits your existing preferences and likes. So you don't need to worry about certain foods that you love causing dumping syndrome or being unable to enjoy like a celebratory piece of cake because you just are so nauseous and don't have an appetite. You can also be more strict on some days and more indulgent in others, or just like meet somewhere in between. So you can basically make the diet work for you. But of course, let's talk about why so many people are moving away from conventional diet and exercise when they want to lose weight. In short, it is hard, and it's comparatively not hugely effective long term. According to the National Weight Control Registry, only 20% of overweight folks are able to lose at least 10% of their body weight and keep it off for 1 year. Some data also suggests that dieting can even result in weight gain because of the risk of weight cycling. So for a lot of people, these just might not be great odds. The reason it is typically so challenging is because all bodies have a genetically determined kind of set point range where they're most comfortable being. And when we threaten that with a calorie deficit, we trigger all these compensatory mechanisms that try to kind of force us to get to our comfortable state. So our metabolism slows down, we move less, our hunger hormones rage. That is the appetite piece that I was talking about earlier. So losing weight with diet and exercise alone requires you to kind of muscle through your biologically hardwired needs and desires, where drugs like Ozempic are more successful because they kind of take this critical piece out of the equation altogether. This also plays into another challenge with kind of restrictive dieting, is their impact on mental health. Purposefully grinding through the discomfort of physical and emotional hunger takes up an enormous amount of mental energy and space, which research does show increases the risk of disordered eating. Now, that's not to say that if you try to lose weight on a diet, you're gonna wind up with an ED, but it does often come down to intention and tactic. That is, the behavior should be coming from a place of self-care, not self-loathing, as movements like Skinny Talk might suggest. And we want to focus on more gentle nutrition changes that you can maintain long-term, even if the results aren't dramatic and quick. As for the price, there might not be an official price tag on dieting, but pursuing lifestyle changes does still require some level of privilege. You have to consider like the cost of nutritious foods and like healthier convenience foods, time to prepare meals, safe spaces to exercise, etc. Safe intentional weight loss also requires some kind of nutrition education and awareness of like calorie density, macros, or other nutrients. Not everyone has an understanding of nutrition. And this is very important because research shows that nutrition literacy is a very important predictor of diet adherence. And of course, working with a professional like a dietitian is also a big expense. All of these are also typical expenses inherent in like bariatric surgery or GLP-1 agonists, but I'm just pointing out that often weight loss by any means is just not accessible to everyone. So to sum this all up, weight loss, really no matter how you slice it, is a lifelong commitment. All three of these options require long-term changes if you want to keep that weight off. So I don't think one is like the clear answer when there are so many different variables at play. Ultimately, I am not here to tell you how to lose weight or even if you should lose weight at all. I believe in body autonomy and providing the facts that allow people to use that to inform their choices. So I hope this was like a helpful jumping off point for allowing you to see how different strategies differ in benefits and risks that you can then take to your healthcare provider for personalized guidance. And on on that note, if you like this video, I've got a whole playlist on weight loss tips and also on Ozempic. And don't forget to tune in to my podcast, Bite Back, for lots of science content every Tuesday. We actually have an episode on Ozempic as well. So I will see you wherever you get your podcast, and I will catch you back here next Friday on Abby's Kitchen. Bye.